All right, looks like we're live on our YouTube and Facebook. Let me just double check. Yes. All right, I'm going to share that out with some folks. I already see a few of you are starting to hop on here. You can do us the favor and let us know who's on here by either giving us a reaction to this video. You can also start commenting, and we will begin here momentarily. Thank you for tuning in to our Monday broadcast. Great, let's get this started. I see a lot of people are pretty eager to hear some of our remarks from our guest today. So I have stopped our scrolly and kicked off this broadcast officially. Happy Monday to you. Thank you for tuning in with us over the last year and 9, 10, 11 months now that we've been hosting these broadcasts. They've been your resource for what's going on in our community, things around COVID, updates from City Hall, resources that are available to you. And we ask that you continue to share the message out to your own following. So if you are tuned in, you can always hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we're live, can also pop on here and engage with us. We'd like to hear comments and questions, whether or not they're in agreement or differing of our own. It is our way of communicating efficiently with you and trying to understand those different perspectives. So thank you for engaging with us. If it's your very first time on our broadcast, then I want to ask you to hit the like button on our video. Of course, hit the like button on this page and make sure that you're following us. If you're not following us, you won't see when we post content into the future, and that's why we kind of have to wait a few minutes before we get started, because it alerts you, if you are following us, that we're live and we're on the broadcast. Now, as you're hopping on here, you're already noticing that we have some comments in the comment section. And this is, again, our way of engaging with you. You can type in good morning remarks, as Parker Brown has done, where we'll display it for not only our guest that's on the broadcast, but also be able to recognize it for you so that the community can see who's on here with us. We've got Christine Wares. Happy Monday to you, Christine and Parker. Both of you are our business owners that are here in our community. So we appreciate you fitting this into your busy morning. We've got our past board chairman, Brian Head, that's tuned in, giving a nice good morning message to you, Councilor Baker, and to myself. Good morning to you, Brian. We appreciate that. And I see Mayor Pro Tem Dave DeMott is on here, engaging with us on this broadcast as well. And then Richard Chamberlain, great to see you this morning. Thank you for being a great community resource for us and engaging on our broadcast. You can always continue to comment on here, especially as we start talking on the different topics that we have. And if you have any questions that come to mind, pop them in the chat. It doesn't mean that I've skipped you if I haven't pulled it up immediately. It just means that we're waiting for that pause and we have you in the queue and we'll be able to display that. So this is very long-winded, but most of you know me by now. I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And every week, with our new transition in council and our new mayor, we are trying this new approach of including a lot of the voices on our city council. And so these are officials that you've elected in office, and we want to hear their perspectives, their feedback, and to hear updates from them. So every week, you're going to hear from someone that's different. This week, we have with us Councilor Bruce Baker. And Councilor Baker, I'm very excited to have you on here with me this morning.
Well, Julia, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. This is a wonderful resource for not only us on council, but for all of the members, that you can ask us one-on-one questions, and you don't get to do that at any city council meetings. I mean, study sessions, you can just listen, and on city council meetings, you can yell at us for 5 minutes, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And this is a back and forth. This is a true back and forth.
Absolutely. You're spot on with that. And thank you for that, for the feedback. Absolutely true. We do get to yell at you, and then there's no recourse because you can't respond back to us from the dice. So I see Councilor Seymour on here with us giving you a good morning message, and us appreciate you hopping on here, Councilor Seymour as well. And our current chairman, Brian Dice, hopping on and joining us, giving you a good morning message, Councilor Baker, and myself. So, oh, and we have Emilio. So thank you, Emilio, for hopping on with us. Emilio is leading our Ambassadors Committee and has been out delivering PPE to businesses, especially in need after that public health order has come into play. So, Councilor Baker, this is not your first rodeo. This is you've been elected before. You've served us in the capacity as a councilor. So we're glad to see you back into the fold. And you have stayed busy. I can't believe that it's been nearly a month since you guys have, we've had elections, and then of course a little bit less than that since your swearing in ceremony. But I know that you've done quite a bit, especially over the last week and a half. So if you're fine with it, let's just jump right into it. I'll ask you a few things that are coming to my mind, and of course you can add more information to it, or feel free to rephrase anything as you'd like to. Okay.
Straight to the point. That's what I
Right.
like.
Excellent. So what I've done for folks is today you actually have a study session, and I know you shared with us a link to share out with the audience, and I've displayed that on here for them. We had a study session last week, and so can we clarify to people what the difference was between this one and the one last week, and why is that different than usual? Because I'm assuming the schedule is usually a study session and then a city council meeting, and not two back-to-back things.
Correct. Generally, the way it works, the first and third Mondays of the month are the study sessions. That makes the second and fourth Mondays of the month the time where we have the actual city council meeting, because we have 2 meetings a month. Mm-hmm. And generally, when we have 5 of the Mondays in a month, we get to take the 5th one off. But we just had an election, and this was a profound election. Mm-hmm. And the council has some things very much at the top of the list. Water and a new city manager being 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we asked staff if we could take the 5th Monday of November and make that a study session, specifically focused on bringing to the public's awareness and answering of the questions that new really council people had. So that's why we had that Monday study session, and it was really devoted mostly to water. This Monday study session is going to be some executive sessions where we're given of the privileged information that we want to keep confidential, and we're also going to interview candidates for our boards and the commissions to put on. So that's why we have this one. This one really is probably not a study session for anyone to show up at, because really there's not going to be anything to watch as far as I know.
Absolutely. And what I've done is I've put in the agenda that you're referencing, Councilor Baker, for tonight's study session. Of course, for folks that are interested in seeing those couple of items that were shared, because they are an executive session, so it's different than usual. The information that's shared as executive session generally means that it is between the council and not for public to kind of listen in on. There are just likely going to be a couple of reports from any councilors or mayor, and it looks like our city manager's usual report, but that link's included for folks. And then what I've also done is, you had mentioned to us that November 30th meeting was to really try and answer some questions for our new council and get them familiarized with some of the processes. So that agenda has also been included for folks to type into or to hop onto. Now, between the last meeting that you had last week and of course one that we have tonight, you also had on Saturday, I believe, a retreat or something that you guys spent a considerable amount of time on.
All day long.
Yes.
All day long. And then nicely, we got to go to the lighting of the city Christmas tree, and all that. So, I mean, there was really fun at the end of the day for us.
And what is generally this type of retreat again? Is it more to kind of review the procedures of everything and how things are being done? And because I know that you guys along the way have also heard from one another about what some of your own priorities or some of your own efforts are that you've heard from the public and on the doorsteps.
Absolutely correct. I'm sure most people remember the puzzle about if you have three cannibals and three of the missionaries, how do you get them across, okay, the river? Uh, and we're like the cannibals. Us people on city council are the cannibals. And if you get more than three of us together, it has to become a public meeting. It has to be recorded. It's got all kinds of rules attached to it. So we have strict rules we have to follow. And so the meeting on Saturday, which is where the new council set its rules for itself. We set like protocols. We set all kinds of things. Now, in bulk, they were the same that they've always been, because once you have a decent wheel, you don't change it that often. Okay, and we have a pretty decent wheel. I mean, city council's always had a pretty decent set of the protocols and things like that, and we've made a little changes here and there, but nothing truly profound or anything else like that. And what was nice about it is we did get into uh, some of the most important issues for the city. As an example, oh, and everything we do at a meeting, except for executive sessions, is public record. So we can share everything we talk about and do at a meeting. Like, for example, on the November 29th meeting, Monday the 29th,
Mm-hmm.
which is where we spent a lot of time on water, I mean, a really video record of that is actually posted on the city website right now. And
Mm-hmm.
people are more than welcome to go and do that. We do a lot more video kinds of really recording if we had more really sophisticated technologies and capabilities, but uh, it's got its challenges. It's got its challenges, and we do the best we can, and we're working on improving that too.
Yeah, and it is. It's a constant process. I feel like technology is a continual upgrade on things that you have, and when you're thrown into it, as we were with COVID and the changes of the world that we saw over this last year and a half, I feel like everyone needs to have a little bit of grace in this and an understanding that there are kinks that are still there, and city is trying to work through it. So I did include that link that you've referenced, Councilor Baker, for folks that are interested in going back and viewing any of those study sessions that have been had, council meetings. You can always rewatch them. Know that they're several hours long. So what I always tell people is feel free to view it as if you would a Netflix series. You're at home. You can start watching it and pause it, especially when it's no longer live. You're not having to stay until that 11:30 or 12 a.m. time frame like your council has had to. So that link is included for you. The water study session was another one that we've heard a lot of concern about over this last year from residents, from folks affected by our rates, from just different feedback that's there. Was there anything that you wanted to share as an end result from that session that may have come to fruition, or is everything kind of the status quo?
Oh, not at all, not at all. And that's been one of my biggest of the frustrations since I've come back to city council is I want to see things happen quickly. I want them now. And organizations, especially with lots of moving parts, cannot move as fast as one individual can. But what we did, but well, I would have liked to change the water rates on the 22nd in November.
Yeah.
Okay, but we had our meeting on the 29th, and we got some concrete, uh, unequivocal data. We can't argue about that because those are the facts of what it is. Unfortunately, we did argue about what the meanings of words was. So that was disappointing, but there's been some guidance given, and hopefully when we will not argue about what profit means again. That was unfortunate. Uh, and at our really retreat on Saturday, the 4th, we accomplished. Isn't that a wonderful word?
That is.
Accomplished. We accomplished certain things. We got our rules for our council. We basically put in place our really of the protocols. Council authorized for the mayor to go ahead and make initial contacts with various search and really recruitment organizations so we can start the process of how we're going to get the new city manager. The new city manager is vitally important because even though the council is the accountable people, you can't run a city with a seven-headed dragon. So we hire a dragon. We
Right.
hire a city manager, and then he becomes accountable to us. And he actually brings to life the ideas and the projects and the things we want to say. Now, we're really fortunate to have an interim city manager who will do that for us, but it behooves everyone involved to get the permanent city manager in place. And so, really, the McNally has been authorized to go ahead and make some initial contacts. And so we can sort of get an understanding of, okay, the landscape.
Yeah.
The other wonderful thing we accomplished is of the counselor, the Seymour and myself have fleshed out a thoughtful, detailed proposal for lowering the water rates. And we basically shared it with all of the other people on Really Council. And at the Saturday meeting, we were supported in having our city staff validate the numbers and how much it's going to cost us to bring this water rate about. And in my opinion, this water rate's probably going to endure for all of 2022.
Wow.
Because the city makes a water rate, it's a very thorough process. It's a very well researched and thought out process. And it can't be done as quickly as Rich and I were able to make this one. Rich, because he had the advantage of being on council for the last 2 years, he had a good handle on water and sewer and what those kind of things should cost. So he brought that into the thing, and I brought a passion because I just am so upset with what various neighborhoods in our city have been dried out by these excessive water rates. And so, between his knowledge and my passion, we came up with what I think is a very thoughtful rate. We're going to have our smart guys validate that. And hopefully, if there's any catastrophe buried in that, any unforeseen circumstances, consequences, that they're going to say, did you know, counselor, did you know that this is going to happen? I don't think there are, but that's why we have it being really validated right now. And in this next week, it basically will be validated, which will put us in perfect position for on the 20th of December to bring this proposal to first reading.
Wow. That so I as soon as you said the accomplishment word, that I lit up, because that's a very positive thing. A couple of things that you mentioned, of course, the authorization for the mayor to go off and get started in that process of setting up what the search for the city manager will look like and how to move forward with it. Very important item that's there, of course, for council to decide on and move forward with. But the secondary accomplishment was another one that's pretty big, and I think it speaks to a lot of your voters that you all have heard from over the last several months or last couple of years as this discussion has come to life. So it's really great to see that you and Councilor Seymour have kind of presented that, and it's exactly what you shared. You know, there's staff that's there to kind of provide the additional, what are the gray areas that might be there, or what is the implication of this if it is implemented, and what are things that we may not be seeing that you guys can see. And I think that that relationship of bringing in all of the angles, or all sides to the discussion, is so important to trying to find a unique solution for what we're in right now. So it sounds like your timeline for December 20th may happen. So I'm optimistic on that. That's a couple weeks out, so we will be tuning in for it. Now, I don't want to lose sight. I see Deandra Hawkins on here with us, another one of our business owners that's in the area. So good morning to you, Deandra. Thank you for tuning in. Brian threw us a comment. This was sometime in between. I think he got distracted along the way in listening to your feedback, but I did want to display this for you so you can be able to see it. And then, of course, I will read it. And Brian is sharing that you must be a real fan of the Denver Broncos after the game last
night. Well, there are people, aren't they?
Right. Yes, you have to stand.
And so they've had some adversity for a while, but I also remember the good times.
Oh, I love that. There you go, Brian. If you're a little salty about the Broncos lately, you can hold on to some of those sentiments that Bruce has shared relating to the team. I've been here for nearly 5 years, so I've only known people sharing how terrible they are. But Bruce, thank you for sharing that, because I think at one point they weren't like what's going on right now. So you did mention that
But it was an entertaining game.
It was an entertaining game, always so lively. So council, again, is always out in the community doing various things. You mentioned on Saturday, ending the evening with that city lighting ceremony, which was a very warm evening on a November day. Are there
not like today,
right? Unlike today, so we lucked out with it. And is there anything else coming up in the? I know that as we move into the month of December, we hit holidays, we hit days off or office closures and things like that. City council, I don't believe that I've seen anything outside of your regular boards and commission meetings, but I may be missing something. So I wanted to ask you if there was any events or programs you're aware of that are coming up for you all to be a part of or in the community. Not a trick question.
No, I didn't think it was a trick question. And of course, anyone by looking at a calendar can understand that we've taken the fourth Monday, a meeting in a month, and pushed it to the third Monday meeting. And we've foregone that study session. So it gives that fourth Monday off. The 27th will be off for everyone and stuff like that. There aren't, I can't think of some public kinds of events, except, let me see, the second Saturday is when you can pick up mulch or dump off tree limbs at our mulch facility, because I use that a lot.
Okay.
And, but other kinds of things, I can't think of, and I don't have my calendar handy, so stuff like that. But you have to remember that the city works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we all know the unfortunate tragedy that happened just yesterday. And that's part of running a city. That's part of running a city. But then, of course, anyone listening to that, when we go on about water and sewer, knows that, boy, these are awful dull people if they get excited about stuff like that. So running a city is a little bit different than providing entertainment with Game of Thrones. So
yes. Yeah, no, absolutely it is. It should be focused on the nuts and bolts of that city and not the flashy or everything else that would be as exciting and appealing to folks. So you did highlight a little bit of what had transpired just the other day. Are you able to give a little bit more information on that? I know several people had posted in a number of different groups, not sure as to what was going on in the community. And so is there any formal thing that I can point them to, or anything that you wanted to reference them?
Really, not that I know of. We haven't been told really anything more than I've seen on any of the news reports or the public kind of thing like that. I think this would be a case where uh, it would have been better had we been more timely and quick with our body cams on a really police force.
Mhm.
But everything has a timetable to move along on. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just quickly looking through. If you are just now hopping on here, we have Councilor Baker with us, and he's given us a number of updates our way on meetings that they've held around water and kind of hearing from experts, hearing from consultants. Just a couple of weeks back, or last week, it feels like I've slept since then, that he's also shared about the strategic session that took place on Saturday, and then the conclusion of that day with the city lighting ceremony. If you've not already been out there or haven't realized, the lights are up. So if you are driving by or we're hoping to catch some lights and get into that holiday spirit, you can do so, of course, in the comfort of your car, or walk around City Hall and do that in the evening. We've also touched on where you can find the agenda items for the study session that's taking place this evening, which is comprised mostly of executive session for those committees and boards and commissions, the submissions of those applicants that are there. We also referenced the YouTube channel for the City of Westminster for folks if you all are interested in going back and reviewing previous council meetings or study sessions. That is your resource for that. So the link is included in the chat section. We've touched on a lot of things already, and in the short time that we've been here. But if there isn't something that we've touched on quite yet, type it into the chat so that we can try and address it for you. If you have questions or thoughts for our counselor, we will take those up for you. I know I've been peppering you with a number of questions from my end, Councilor Baker. So was there any additional thoughts that you wanted to share with people, or anything you were hoping to utilize this platform and kind of let them know about?
absolutely. I would like to recognize the importance of the chamber and of our really retail sales outlets in our city. You guys are the hand that feeds the city. Sales tax is in the order of 2/3 of the income to run this city. And without a thriving, vigorous retail, I mean, the community, we would be in a jam. So we really appreciate what you do and all of the efforts that are done. And this council, well, I think all councils, but this council especially, wants to listen to ideas that your group has that'll make life easier. Because I'd like to really facilitate retail in this city.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that comment, Councilor Baker. And know that I did not donate to Councilor Baker or anyone's campaign. He just shared this out of the kindness of his heart about the chamber and us being an amazing resource. So we appreciate that. And I know that you have been a champion for business and for supporting our organization, even in this last week, and in making sure that the City Council is welcoming new businesses into our community and letting them know about the resources that are there. Councilor, you mentioned a sales tax being 2/3 of the income that goes to running the city's amenities and services and the primary functions that are there. And so it actually gave me a segue of including our own link in here about the We Love Westy sweepstakes, which is a partnership between the city and the chamber. So we have a number of businesses that are taking part in this event. Support local. I know that a lot of you are using this time to find gifts, holidays, maybe also invest in your own business with insurance needs that you have, or other different types of professional services. These businesses that are participating in the campaign are all coming together to try and give you an incentive to do business with them. So outside of feeling great for supporting local, you also have a chance at up to $5,000 in cash if you do business, shop, dine, or just connect with those businesses that are a part of our campaign. Now, Councilor Baker, there is a question that pops through. This question came to us from Justin, who is another business owner that's here in our community. And Justin has been engaging, especially over the last several months with us, and was on a few of our forums. If you may recognize or may not, I know there's been a lot around that time, but his name had popped up around that time. But Justin is asking a question as it relates to our businesses right now, especially some of the issues that they're running into around labor shortage. So he is sharing, will the city be addressing strains being put on businesses with a labor shortage and the COVID mandate?
We already have. As you may know, City Council on a 6-1 decision,
Mhm.
supported the Chamber's appeal to the Jefferson County Health Board.
Mhm.
Uh, Not to be so really draconian about these mandates. The Chamber understands the fear, but because you guys have to pay the price of implementing these mandates, you also fully understand the costs. And sometimes people in government, they also understand the fear and they can imagine some benefits, but they don't have to pay the costs. So they have to be reminded of them. Uh, I know at least two other members of this council that are quite eager to scientifically and coldly engage in a conversation about what kind of safeguards government needs to put on. So, if we can do that in a constructive way, which will be the major challenge,
Yeah.
I think we could make some progress on this
Mhm.
because we're all on the same side in not wanting people to get sick.
Mhm.
So it's how do we put the fear into proper proportion? I have said for many years now, uh, when you get lied to, there are two important parts of a lie. One is somebody tells you the wrong stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, that very rarely happens. What happens most of the time with a lie is people warp things out of proportion to which they truly are. And I think that's our challenge here. So I
Mhm.
hope that answers Justin's question.
Absolutely.
Because if we can get rid of some of the fear, I think we can have the confidence and people will. I like work. Work gives purpose to life, and I was in retail a long time and I enjoyed my customers too. So now I would like to sort of change directions completely here, and because
Yeah.
I know we're coming pretty close to the end, I'd like to share, if people don't already know, that Bob Briggs passed away. And I was on council when Bob Briggs was one of the moving parts that made the chamber. And he was indeed a champion for the chamber and always was. And nobody gets out of this world alive except for Elijah and someone else in the Bible. But
Mhm.
most of us have to go the hard way out. And it's not a terrible thing, it just leaves a hole in our lives. And Bob left a hole, pretty big hole, too. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Baker, for answering Justin's question. More on this, Justin. In the future, I know our counselors are working hard to come to some solutions for our businesses. And stay tuned for emails that we'll be sending out actually starting today, so you can provide some impact numbers for us, which will help us in our conversations with our health departments and moving forward to addressing some concerns that are off of those mandates. Of course, thank you, Councilor Baker, for sharing about Bob. This, for those of you that were blessed enough to know Bob, then you had an opportunity to meet a very vivacious soul that was very driven to get things done. And not enough words can be said in our short time here on the broadcast and posts that we've made. But what I have done, of course, was include information about Bob's memorial service and his celebration of life, which are scheduled after the holidays. We posted last week, right when it did happen. So, and we've not posted anything. So for those of you that were curious as to why we've been silent the last several days, know that this has deeply affected our organization, and there wasn't really something to follow up a situation like that over the last few days. So we wanted to take that pause and be able to reflect on someone who has made a big impact in public service, but of course in the formation and foundation of our organization. And without Bob, I would not be here today, sitting here in front of you all, or connecting with our counselor, or being the voice of our business community. So please take that time to reach out to his family or comment on those posts that you're seeing, and help in sharing just the legacy of someone that was so much bigger than just one. So thank you so much, Councilor Baker, for sharing that. On that note, we have gone over on time. We had a lot to share with you guys, and we'll be back here next week, of course, with a different counselor this time, but we'll bring Councilor Baker in the future. So probably after the start of the year, you'll see him again. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in, for engaging with comments, with questions that you've had for us, with remarks, whether they were out of a good humor or just random that were there. But we appreciate that involvement. Of course, hit the share button so others see this in your network. And Councilor Baker, I appreciate you for fitting this in and making it work in your schedule. I know you guys always are invited to various things and to take part in a number of activities. So I think this shows, and it speaks to the fact that you do have an interest in hearing from our organization and from hearing from our overall business community. So we very much appreciate your service and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.